I was thinking that we could do a tier maker with all the Founders Collection cards, because I think there's a lot of variety, right? There's everything. So what I made was a tier maker with the ranks of Duelyst, right? So S rank, Diamond, Gold, Silver, Bronze. And I thought that now that we have the complete list, we could actually rate them, right? So, let me stop searching for a game, just so that we don't get interrupted in this beautiful, beautiful activity. I love tier lists. I love tier lists, and it has to be made. I want to make more, to be honest. At the beginning, I thought about making them of factions, but there's just not that many factions that makes it interesting, right? But when it comes to Founders Collection, I gave it a thought. I was like, let's do it. So, just so it's clear, this is gonna be a rank purely based on how good the card is. Not how much we like it, not how much we like the design, nothing else. Just how good is it, right? And it doesn't... I won't take into effect the current meta or anything. I don't even know what the current meta is right now. I think it's still molding, right? And I thought we could start from the first cards that released, right? And we're gonna start with Sloth. So, Sloth was clearly S rank since the beginning. They've moved it around. And the current nerf to 5 mana, to me, feels like a hit. It's still really good. 1/6, and you put all 3 Ruby, Emerald, and what is the blue aura? I don't remember. Sapphire? I don't think it's Sapphire. Is it Sapphire? Maybe. But the fact that it's 5 mana, you can now play it on turn 2, right? So playing Sloth on turn 2 really turned the game on your favor, and it was basically almost auto-include in every deck. But the question is, if we don't put Sloth in S rank, what do we put in S rank? I don't think there's any better card at the moment, in my opinion, than Sloth. So Sloth is going to S. Is it the best card? Debatable. It has competition. We'll talk about it. It will not be. It is Sapphire. Nice. The blue aura. It's not the only one that we're gonna put in S rank for sure, right? I think if Sloth was still a 4-drop, even with 1/4 stats, he would need a classification for his own, and he would be the only one in S rank. But then we could say the same about Riftwalker, because Riftwalker, Calvin, Riftwalker was intentionally, or the idea behind Riftwalker was to be a 2/3, okay? This was gonna be a 2/3, and people freaked out, and he became a 3/2. And as a 3/2, this card dominated every deck, just like Sloth. So now, it is a 2/2. It lost a little bit with those stats, but it is still at the same level of Sloth, right? I think these two are the best cards of the whole Founders Collection. Remember when Rift was a 2/3? Oh my god. Oh my god. Alright. More of the first wave. We got Double Agent, right? So Double Agent has been a bit controversial, and it actually got nerfed recently. I don't think it got nerfed because it was so good. I think it got nerfed because some people were getting really desperate about the fact that it was stealing their cards just randomly, right? And random is a factor that nobody really likes to lose to. It feels very fun to win with something so random, but on the losing side, it's not great. So they changed Double Agent to just make a copy of a card from the enemy, and instead of stealing it, right? So Double Agent, the reason it's good is because it's one of the few minions that helps you with hand size by still putting a body on board, right? There's very few cards that do this. In terms of other cards, we have Ghostlinks. The good thing about Ghostlinks is that, and the difference with Ghostlinks is basically that Ghostlinks has a 1/3 stat that is, in my opinion, slightly better than a 2/2, just because it doesn't die by immediate hit from the general, even if it does less damage. A lot of decks benefit from keeping those bodies on board, right? So I personally prefer a 1/3 body, but it really depends on the type of deck, right? The other difference is that Double Agent gives you a card from the enemy, and Ghostlinks gives you a card from your deck, right? But those two are the only cards that put a body on board. Draw your cards, right? So Double Agent is it gold? Yeah, Double Agent is immediate draw. That is true. And that is better. That is better. I don't know how I feel about putting him in gold. It is immediate draw. The problem is you get a random card, right? So sometimes it can be really good, but sometimes it can be useless. But it can create something that initially you can't through deck building. I think Agent is good in locked lists. Yeah, exactly. It's good in swarmy decks that, need hand draw, right? So you need to keep your hand full while swarming. So those decks almost always run lock, right? And that definitely, in that type of deck, I think a Double Agent is much more than a gold tier. But as it stands, I'm gonna keep it in gold for now. Alright, so more minions from that first wave. We have Albeast Adept. I really like Albeast Adept. I think it's not used nearly enough. It punishes your enemies for using spells, and it gets it does have the tag of Arcanist, so it can be combined with other Arcanists, like Albeast Sage, right? Really good card, really good. It's not seeing a lot of play because it's a 3-drop, and the 3-drops, there's a lot of competition, right? There's a lot of good 3-drops in faction. Not so many. Also in neutral, because this guy is competing against Ladylock, is competing against Riftwalker, is competing against cards that can go well in many decks, while Albeast Adept requires a little bit more of building around, right? It's really good to start with a 3-drop if you're going second. You're dropping an Albeast turn 1 going second. It's really good because now your opponent is basically limited in their actions. And you never see the impact that a card... When a card impacts the options of your opponent without you seeing it, you don't see the impact it has. It's like playing Arcane Spellbinder, right? You don't realize until you see it the impact it has because of the amount of mana that it makes them spend, or the plays that they just can't play anymore because of the card, right? It's just not that visible. But Owlbeast Adept, really good, should see more play. It's diamond tier for me. Isby's Monument. Now, I've had problems with Isby from the beginning because... Not for anything, but because I'm not the biggest fan of control, right? But in a control deck, I think Isby is insane. They changed Isby. It also got nerfed since it released, because together with Sloth in the green tile, Isby would remain for eternity. What's a Dizark? Oh. Alright. Anyway, we'll get to Dizark. But Isby, as a card, it's super unique. It's been a long time since neutral healing got anything different. It was Healing Mystic and Rejuve for a long time, right? As the main actors in healing for neutrals, right? And Isby's brought something different than just pure healing, which is really interesting. It makes your general not like it, but also discourages them from wanting to get rid of it, right? Because you're wasting resources on something that is healing themselves. So it's very difficult for your opponent to understand the threat that Isby is doing on them, right? So Isby is definitely going to be diamond for me as well. Why the fuck is Owl so high? Owl is freaking good. Owlbeast Adept is good, but don't worry guys. I will share this with you. I want to see your tiers. Just don't put everything in bronze, okay? Alright, so what are we missing? Mana Artificer. So Mana Artificer, a 2/4 that when they die, they drop a mana tile. The problem here is the lack of control of that mana tile. A lot of the times, your opponent ends up with that mana tile, and you're just giving them a mana tile, right? It's 2 mana, a 2/4, which is good stats, right? But there is not that many differences from a 2/3 to a 2/4 because of the general attack when it comes to early game minions, right? Of course it's better to have 4 health, don't get me wrong, right? There's many differences in terms of Phoenix Fire, in terms of Dancing Blades, that do 3 damage that would kill it, and having 4 health you survive all those attacks, right? The problem is 2/4, it's not vanilla, but it's almost there, right? 1 Zendry, 2 Zendry. Okay, there's a lot of love to Zendry here. Nerf Zendry, please. I've never seen anybody use Mana Artificer outside of Gauntlet. The one time my opponent had one, I used the mana tile for my advantage. Exactly. That is the problem with Mana Artificer. And it's such a cool design. I understand why it's related to mana. I see the connection with Mana Tethermancer. It's cool. But ultimately, I just... It has to be bronze. I'm sorry. It has to be bronze. I will be proven wrong, and Mana Artificer will be used some way in the future that impresses and, you know, oppresses. But at the moment, it feels like you give the opponent the chance to get an extra mana if they kill this. It's like, kill this and get an extra mana. You get a prize. Fate has a chronic issue of making cards that are too fair. I saw some people using it in Ramp Abyss, but seems like everyone gave up on that. People don't play Acolyte because Riftwalker is a better version of it. Which one is Arclight? For a 2-drop, you can't be as aggressive with it because you get too close, it will be used by your opponent. Oh. The one that gives +2 -2. Fuck, I still don't know what card you guys mean. What the frick? How did you write it? Sentinel? Oh shit, the liner card. Arclight Sentinel. Yeah, I completely, man. My brain just disappeared there for a second, I guess. I haven't been using liner. Clearly people don't like to see liner, so I just kind of dropped it. Oh man. Alright, so we continue with Crazed, right? I think... Was it Dizark first? It was Dizark first, my bad. It was Dizark first. Crazed was in wave 2. So, Dizark. 6 mana, 6/9. Draw 3 cards at the end of your turn instead of 2. I think Dizark is a really good card. It's very used in decks that tend to just push their hand down, like Aggro Vanner or even Vitruvian when you're playing like a Zoo type. I think the problem, like the thing about Dizark is that since it's 6 mana, you see less play of it, and a 6 mana that doesn't have a direct impact on board is always hard, right? It's difficult to play. Not difficult in the sense that it's hard to play it. It's just that you lose a lot of tempo by dropping a 6 mana card that doesn't have direct impact besides drawing you 1 more card, right? But 6/9 is really good stats. It's very difficult to get rid of for your opponent, and combined with very low mana minions, you're basically slamming a bunch of cards, drawing 3, and then from that you just go on, right? It's difficult because of the competition with Archon. Exactly, Zedix. Archon Spellbinder seems slightly... Well, not slightly. I mean, if Archon Spellbinder was here, it would have its own tier. Archon Spellbinder is insane. But Dizark, just because it's a 6 mana card, doesn't mean it's worse. For a 6 mana card, in this expansion, I think Dizark is really, really good. Dizark has the little known issue of not being Archon. But that's just because Archon exists. If Archon is not there, then there's Dizark, right? The fact that it's like Albi's Adept. There is 3 drops that are better. There is minions that take the slot that the Owl would take, right? But that doesn't mean you don't like, that doesn't mean it's not good. It just means it's not as good as other cards. But for the purpose of our ranking within Founder's Collection, Dizark is Diamond. Now, does that... Oh, we're missing Metal Tooth. Oh, Metal Tooth. I love Metal Tooth. Okay, I'm going a bit biased here. But because what's coming next is not good, okay? But Metal Tooth for me is really, really decent. The problem is it has to be within a certain deck, which is basically Mech Banner, for me to see the use in it. I created a Vitruvian Megazord list. I didn't even consider adding Metal Tooth because you really need to buff him to get any use of him. I would only see Metal Tooth in like a Songhai mech or a Vanner mech, and a Vanner mech is really good. Maybe in Magmar. So it's really good, but it's very circumstantial, right? By itself, without buffs, Metal Tooth is not amazing. The problem of Metal Tooth is being 3 mana. The other problem of Metal Tooth is the fact that it doesn't grow Megazord. That's annoying. Keeper of the Veil can help. Keeper of the Veil cannot solve every problem we have. But yeah, it really, like, if this was about personal preference or liking of the card or design or even like the aesthetics, I love it. It would be S. But when it comes down to how good is it, it's a 2/2 with Frenzy that you need to have another mech piece. So you have to be playing mech, right? Because if not, it doesn't make sense. Why would you add a 3 mana 2/2 with Frenzy? It doesn't get the rush tag unless you have another mech piece. And then you need to have another mech piece, and then you need to buff it. So it's super circumstantial. It's not great. It's really good in certain decks, and that's why it finds play, just like Double Agent. Ooh, that's a silver card right there. Hello, Harpu. If Nebula is ranked higher than 2 mana 2/4 with text on it, I'm gonna lose my shit. Oh, we're getting there, because I think that completes the first wave, right? So we're gonna go with wave number 2. And wave number 2 started with a card that, design-wise, I loved Crab. Because of the memes, because of what it brought to the game. I loved it. It was a short period of time, because of course it was nerfed, right? But it created insane games, right? Of course, it's not something that could be kept as a 0/8, because initially it's a 0/8 that when it gets damaged, it creates a copy of itself. And now it's a 0/6 that does exactly the same effect. I think it's still good. It's just not super oppressive, and people have kind of gone away from playing it. It's still decent, but just like Metal Tooth, it needs to be played in a very specific type of deck, tailored towards it. If it goes off, it's really good. It had 1 attack in testing. That's insane. The thing is, the moment Crab has an attack, it can attack and it creates a copy, right? Of course, with 6 health, it will die like sooner than later, right? Because it gets damage, it creates a copy, right? What's it gonna get? Probably 2 damage, maybe. So it's gonna create another copy, and then they're both gonna have 4 health. And then the swarm kind of finishes really early. When it was 8 health, it was really, really strong. I think it still has a lot of play. I think it still needs to be more investigated. In my eyes, I think Decapotheosis is still a gold tier. I still want to build around it. I think it can win games because people don't expect it now. People don't have answers to it. And people freak out when they see Krabby here. I love Crab. I think, for me, the funnest card of the entire Founders Collection was Deck Apotheosis. It brought chaos. It brought, you know, people building decks around it. It brought so much. Something that I haven't seen in this last wave, unfortunately. But we'll get there. We'll get through the last wave. Let's continue with wave number 2. And we can continue with World Core Golem. So World Core Golem is a 12/12 for 9 mana. And it costs 1 more mana per minion that you have, and 1 less mana for minions that your opponent has. It's not great. The problem is, if your opponent has 3-4 minions more than you, you're not in a good spot. And a 12/12 might not even do that much for you. In certain situations, it might. And I may be proven wrong, right? But you're so limited to play it depending on who you're playing against. If you're playing against Artifact Vitruvian, you're screwed, right? You have to wait until turn 9 and not have any minions on board, right? It has to be played in a very specific deck that you don't swarm, you don't play that many minions. It can be played in Artifact Vitruvian, for example. I would like to try that. But as it stands, for me, World Core Golem is probably silver. Very underwhelming. It's a lot of investment, both with board or with mana, depending on, you know, when you play it. And investing so much in one minion that doesn't have immediate impact and can be answered by your opponent on their turn seems very, very risky. You can basically lose by, you know, using your entire turn to play this golem, and then it just gets answered with some type of spell that removes it, or even just 2 mana whipped away to a corner. What the hell do you do then? You know. So silver, I do have some plans in mind for him in terms of deck building, but for now, it will stay silver. We might do this in the future again. Who knows? Golems are just not in a great spot. All right, so Capricious Marauder. So Capricious Marauder is actually, so design-wise, everything that is not about how good the card is, I love it. It's a super cool animation, super beautiful design. 3 mana, 4/3. Of course, Calvin. I was gonna do that at the end, but there you go. Please share it. Share it with the people. I'll share mine in the server once I'm done. So, Capricious Marauder, the problem is it's a 4/3. And you want it to survive. It doesn't have an immediate impact. It's very, not weak, but it can be answered. And even if it can't be answered, your opponent positions themselves accordingly. For me, and people might disagree with this, for me, Capricious Marauder is a silver, in terms of how good the card is. I really like it. I wish I could play it more. It has room in Magmar with Vindicator because it gives it rush, but I cannot give a rating to a card just because of another card, which is Vindicator. The card itself is silver. It can find good play, just like World Core Golem, in a very specific deck with a very specific scenario, in a faction that is Magmar. Alright, let's continue. Well, we're talking a lot about golems, so let's continue with golems. Boulder Breacher is actually a golem that is finally super interesting, because it has an effect that you wouldn't expect for golems, which are known for their empty text. I like Boulder Breacher. The problem is, it destroys everything. So let me actually pull out the text because I need to remember it. Opening, so it's 6 mana, 7/7, and opening gambit does 3 damage to all allied golems and units nearby them. So it's a nuke, right? This card is a nuke. I haven't used it enough, or have it been used against me, to determine the usefulness of it between gold and silver, but that's where it stands for me. So Boulder Breacher is between these two categories. If we're talking about usefulness, it's probably more gold than silver. I think 6 mana, 6/6 are okay stats. Okay. You can surround the enemy with golems, but if you have that superiority, do you really need Boulder Breacher? If you have the possibility of swarming your opponent with golems, I don't feel like you need Boulder Breacher, right? But you can drop Boulder Breacher and act like you can drop a golem before Boulder Breacher and use Boulder Breacher as a small holy ammo, which is really cool. So I'm gonna put it gold. Not convinced about it, but I'll put it gold. I'll put it gold. Nebula, after the buff, it's really... okay, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Terrible. 7 mana, 4/9 now. That gets rush. Does it get rush or does it have rush? I don't remember. I need to play more golems, man. It has rush if you control other golems, and it has airdrop, right? So that's what we're talking about. Nebula is a bronze because you're spending 7 mana to have... If you have a golem, you can hit for 4. That is so underwhelming. That is just insane. So at the moment, I like that Nebula brings rush to golems. That's great. Because finally have something that is proactive, that you can drop from your hand, besides Boulder Breacher, but you can drop from your hand and you can attack something specifically. That's great. But it's 7 mana. 7 mana for 4 attack rush. It's way too much. Way too much. Okay, that completes the golems, and the only one we're missing from from the second wave is Crazed. So Crazed is a 5/5 for 4 mana, so really good stats. That if you have 9 mana or more, it has Veil, and it has Frenzy, right? So really cool card. You have to reach 9 mana in order to benefit from it. It can find place in a lot of decks. I've seen people playing it in Ramvanner. I've seen people play it in Songhai in case they reach the late game. And you know, you can make a case for it. It's 4 mana 5/5 is really good stats. Really good stats. So the fact that it gets Veil and Frenzy just adds to it. It's difficult to reach 9 mana in Duelyst in the current state, but there are decks that can make you survive and assure you that you reach it, right? So for me, Crazed is also going to be gold. It's not in a diamond level from my point of view, but it's not silver either, right? And we reach the final and last wave, which came out about like a month ago. Maybe not a month ago, but like 3 weeks. I haven't really managed to play too much with all these cards. I'm really interested in Chewy specifically. When it comes to Lily, it's a 4 mana 4/5 with a very interesting effect that pushes an enemy 1 space backwards. And if it cannot be pushed, it just does 2 damage to both enemies, right? Both slots. Even your allies, by the way. 4 mana, 4/5, good stats, interesting ability. Maybe I've wanted to test it in stuff like creeps, but it doesn't feel something that breaks the mold. It doesn't feel something that overpowered. And to be honest, that's the whole feeling with this entire expansion, right? It seems like cards that don't break the mold at all. Let me see if I can move this 1 second here. Alright, because I'm gonna probably need to read some of these cards. So when it comes to Lily, it's also between gold and silver. I'm honest. I don't want to put everything in gold, but I do think that she is one of the best cards in this last wave. And that only awards her gold, alright? Only awards her gold. Alright, so Psycho... What was the name? Psionic Resonator. 3/5 for 5 mana. That whenever you replace a card or play a spell, it does 1 damage in the column where this card is. I've played with it. I've tried to build around it. And when it goes off, it's fun. But very underwhelming because it's just 1 damage. And even in Songhai with movement and spells, it didn't really make the difference that I was expecting when I saw the card. I was really excited about it. So for me, Psionic Resonator, it's kind of a bronze. I'm not gonna lie. That is what it is. Oh, Calvin made their own. Oh, I have to allow it. 1 second, let me finish this. Let me see. Albi's Prophet is a 3/3 mana opening gambit. I don't even remember the ability. If you've played a spell this turn, deal 1 damage to a unit. The problem with this is the cap of 1 unit. 1 damage, sorry. That's it. It only does 1 damage for 3 mana. It's like very underwhelming. It's just really underwhelming. It's a bronze tier for me too. I just can't. Next, we have Pummy, which is a fantastic name. By the way, the design of this last wave is amazing. I love every single design. If it was about design, the 3rd wave would be at the top. It's beautiful. The Psionic Resonator, everything is beautiful. But anyways, Pummy the Storm Chaser, airdrop, and after this attacks, deal 2 damage to joined enemies and switch positions with the farthest joined enemy minion. I haven't tried it yet. It seems rather strange of an ability. Airdrop is not a tag that I particularly like. 4 mana 3/4 is not great stats at all. For me, it goes in bronze too. This might change. These might go up as I see them in decks or as I play them and I find utilities. But at the moment, I don't see it. I just don't see it. Last but not least, we got Chewy. Chewy is a 3 mana 1/4 that after it destroys a minion, it fully heals, gains attack equals to the attack of the minion it killed, and gains the ability of that minion. I'm super excited about Chewy. I think it's the most exciting card within this last wave. I'm not sure. I might be heavily disappointed about it, as I was with Psionic Resonator. But as it stands right now, I can see Chewy doing some stuff. I think the hype is more about the uniqueness of the ability than the fact that it's good or not. It's still gonna be silver. Their design is good because they're legacy cards. Oh, the design? They're legacy cards? I didn't know. Wait, let me allow Calvin's and let's take a look at theirs and compare it to ours. Alright, so this is Calvin's. Ooh. Hi, Lily. Okay. Alright. I mean, it's not that different, is it? Interesting position of Isby. The last time I played Chewy, I put a gravity well next to it, and they killed it with Chewy, so I just ignored it all game. Wait, because it becomes a wall? Does it become a wall? Oh. Oh my god, that's so good. That's so good. Oh. Alright. Alright, let's share it on Discord so people can trash us. And claim their interpretation of the truth. Let's see. Upload file. Do. Link. Paste. All right. Sorry about that. If Chewy kills Obelisk, would their attack go to 0 and they can't go up? Oh, it becomes a wall that dies if it's dispelled. Oh, this is just beautiful. So, Calvin, I like your list, to be honest. I don't disagree with it much. No, I don't disagree with it much. I think Crazed and Albeast are slightly better. But, I think Capricious Marauder, you put it in gold just because of Vindicator. Because without Vindicator, it would never be here. But, fair enough, it's in the game. It's part of the game. But I like it. I like it. I like that we don't distance too much. And we're ranking 19 cards, right? Ooh, Lure with Marauder. Yeah, and Marauder kind of makes sense in Abyssian, right?